Welcome, my name is Tammy O'Hara. I am the owner of Million Miles Travel Agency. We are a boutique travel agency slash host agency located in New York City. Today, we're going to be talking about air consolidators, Centrav. So, I'm a member of a lot of travel agency Facebook groups and just groups in general. And there is a lot of fear of working with air consolidators or actually just booking air in general. And I discovered pretty early on in my career as a travel agency that it's a kind of an untapped market. And if you play things correctly, you can actually make a lot of money off of air consolidators. Now, first off, what is an air consolidator? So, an air consolidator um, is a company such as Centrav. There's a lot of other ones out there where you can search and book airline tickets from a variety of different um, airlines. So, a lot of people don't book air because they don't have a GDS. The air consolidator takes away the need for a GDS. And it kind of puts you on an even playing field because now you have access to the same air pricing and contracts that a lot of people who have the GDS do. And you don't have to worry about learning all those codes because it's done for you on Centrav side. So I use two of them primarily, or technically three. I use Centrav, that's the one I use the most. And I also use Cosmopolitan Travel Services. And because Cosmopolitan Travel Services is a preferred supplier from Travel Leaders, so I use them when I can't find it on Centrav. And then also, Travel Leaders also has their own air consolidator type program, which is AirPro Prime. All right, so here we have the booking engine for Centrav. And there's a lot of different ways that you can use this. So you can use it to book, just a regular domestic or international flight. I have found that if you're looking to make a business out of booking air, you are more likely to be able to make that money on international air. Most of the time, the domestic air, you can find it just by booking it publicly. There's no difference. But international air is a bit different, and you can really get some great pricing by booking international air through the air consolidator. So here is the booking engine. So we have our search option, we have a trip builder, and we have a group request. So if you have a group of clients that are traveling to wherever, again, international, I think is always the best, then you have the option of getting an air contract. Contracts, I hear that word scares people. It doesn't really scare me because I'm a lawyer, but it still is scary to think about. But it is really the way to sell it is you have clients, they're traveling, it's a huge family, they're all traveling from one destination and they're going to another destination. They're all going on the same trip and they're all coming back on the same trip. There's over 9 of them. It is a great way to, again, add more value to your service by telling them, hey, not only can I book your hotel and your excursions while you're in London, I can also book your flights, and I can book your flights so that you don't have to pay for it all at once, which is a perk of a group travel, a group contract. It's a low deposit. Usually it's between $50 to $100, and you get to pay for it over time. So if they're going to be traveling next year, say they're traveling in June of next year to London, you can say, hey, we can book everything right now, a low deposit of $250 per person. and that will cover your hotel, your transfers, and your air. And of course, some of that transfer money, $50 of it, would go towards your air. But we're not going to do that now because that takes a little bit more and it's a little bit more advanced. Right now, we're just going to look at a simple booking, air booking, international air booking. This is something that I just did not too long ago, so I think I still remember the pricing. So I have a client that wants to leave from Atlanta and they want to go to London. I specifically asked them if they had a preference in terms of which London airport that they wanted to fly out of. They did not have a preference, but based on my own experience and my knowledge, I believe that London, Heathrow, which is the major airport in London, would have nonstop flights from Atlanta. So I'm going to select London Heathrow. I'm always a fan of giving someone a nonstop option if it's available. I just feel that if I had the choice between a nonstop flight and a layover flight, I will always take the nonstop flight. All right, and they're trying to travel around Christmas time, which it's always a difficult thing to do. And they told me their schedule is pretty flexible. They told me that they wanted to leave either on between the 24th to the 26th, and then they wanted to come back between the 3rd and the 5th. So I am going to select the 24th, and then I'm going to select the 4th. And it's going to be 3 adults and no children, no infants. And you can select what type of airfare that you wanted to look at. So they have consolidator, which is the contracted air, published, which is usually called the public airfare. There's cruise, which is not going to be we're not going to be selecting that because this is not a cruise that they're going on, and student fare. You can also select nonstop flights only and exclude basic economy. I'm going to exclude basic economy fares. Now, there's an additional options. If they want a specific airline, you can add that in. If they have points that they want to earn, they have SkyTeam, Star Alliance, One World, or whatever, you can select those. You can also limit the amount of connection time or the amount you want to make sure there is at least a minimum amount of connection time. I'm thinking again that there's going to be nonstop flights, so I'm not even going to select all of that. Now, since they told me that their dates are flexible, I am going to include this flexible outbound dates, and see here they have options of the exact date, 1 day before and after, 1 day before, 2 days before, 1 day after, 2 days after. So my outbound days, it's either the exact date or it's 1 day after. So 1 or 2 days after. So I'm just going to put 2 days after. And they said that they can either fly back on the 3rd or the 4th. So it's 1 day before. And what will happen when you search for the fares is that Centrav will basically present to you the lowest cost option in any of those combinations. So it could be that the best date to fly is Christmas and the best date coming back is the 4th. So even though our departure date here that we put as Christmas Eve, the cheaper date might be the 25th. And so we're going to search for fares. All right, so before we even start looking at the fares, I'm going to direct your attention to the top of the page. So we have here, there's 513 fares, which we're definitely not going to be looking at. And their economy round trip from Atlanta to Heathrow Airport during our dates, December 24th to Saturday, January 4th. And we have the fare matrix, which we have our consolidator fares, which are the contracted fares. We have the commissionable fares, and then we have published. I want you to look at the price difference between the consolidator fare, $2,241 total price for all three. That's a total price for three travelers, versus the commissionable fare, which is $3,434. So basically, this is the fare that you would find if you go on Expedia or any of those airlines. This is the fare that you would find. And this is the fare that we can give them, we can offer them. Obviously, you're going to add in a fee, but you can already see that's actually over $1,000 in difference. So I think I've already rested my case in terms of this is the type of money that you can make on international airfare. So we're going to be looking at specifically nonstop flights. So you can see that obviously the nonstop flights are going to be much more expensive than these flights because those are the flights with the one connection. Again, if they're very price sensitive, you would probably present the one-stop option first. But if they're really concerned about they want to get there quickly, or they don't want to have a stop, then you would obviously present the nonstop flight first. So here we have the consolidator fare, which is going to be $36.12 on Delta Airlines. And you will notice here that this is the same schedule. And that's because this is a code share. So in this situation, I would find out which airline is actually going to be operating the flight. So it says here that this Virgin flight is being operated by Delta Airlines. So in this situation, I would try to select the Delta flights if I can find the Delta flight, which is a little bit more expensive, so I probably won't. So the Delta flight here is Delta is operating this the Virgin airline flight, Virgin Atlantic flight. So this is the flight I would select. Now, when you select this, I would also try to find out how much the published fare is. So I'm going to scroll down and see if I can find what the published fare is for this flight, because the whole point is that you want to beat it. You want to beat the flight. You want to beat the price that they would find by doing their own search. Now I see here there's a bunch of commissionable flights. So I think that this commissionable flight is probably the one that you can find online. So this is the price that I want to beat. So it's $39.90.66. And you can see here that's $36.12. So that's a $300 difference. So you can come in right under it, and you can envelope that into a package and present the entire package as one price. You'll mark up the $36.12 to, let's say, just $3,900 flat. That's still a $200 and something markup. And you can see the markup limit here is $119, but what basically happens is that there's a markup limit that they can absorb into the price, and then whatever else is additional to that, it'll just be charged as a separate service fee. And there are options that you can use to make it one price instead of making it multiple prices. And I'll just show it to you right now. So we're going to take that first option that we have. All right. And you can do, again, you want to confirm. And it says if you choose to add a markup that exceeds the markup limit, a 3.5% fee will be added to the total price when paying with credit card. Another thing that I wanted to tell you about Centrav, which is also great, is that you can actually avoid these fees if you do what's called a direct pay. Now, this is not something that I would, if someone who's just new to Air Consolidator, I wouldn't do that right away because there are, and you'd have to talk to your host about if you can actually do that. Because again, there are rules about taking money and taking money from clients and how money is supposed to be handled by agents as it relates to client payments. Now, every host agency is different. I know how I run my host agency and how it is that they can kind of work around taking money from clients. Basically, I take it for them. But they would have to, there's a procedure that they would have to follow. Again, you would have to speak with your host agency, make sure that you can actually do it in terms of doing a direct pay versus a credit card payment. You can always do a credit card payment, just make sure that you account for the 3.5% fee, especially if you're going to mark it up more than $119. You can just mark it up to $119, or, again, if you want to add a little bit more money to your check, you'll take into account the 3.5% and then mark it up accordingly. You'll submit the traveler information, and then you can either book this now and apply payment later, or you can make payment now. Now, you have basically until 11 p.m. the same day to make payment. So this is not a situation where you can make the booking and then make a payment next week. Not going to happen. You have to make the payment that same day, but you will hold the pricing of that ticket unless they say otherwise. You hold the pricing of the ticket and you hold the seats. So it's not a situation where you tell the client a price and they come back, you're on the phone with them, they have to think about it for a little bit, they think about it for a little bit, and they come back and now those seats are gone, the price has gone up. You can always hold the seats if you have the 3 travelers' information. So you need to have their first, last name, and their date of birth. You will need that information if you want to hold it. Again, I think that air consolidators and booking international tickets are a amazing source of additional income for travel agents. I know that there is some fear that goes along with that because obviously if you mess up something on air ticket, it is very hard to fix, and it's also costly to fix. But I feel that it's kind of the same way with just doing anything with travel agency. You just got to make sure that you're careful. And I would encourage you to, if you're going to book it, hold it, come back to it with fresh eyes and look at it again. You have 24 hours as with most all airline bookings, you have 24 hours to cancel it. So if you see a problem or you see a mistake, trust me, We've all done it. If you see a mistake, cancel it within the 24 hours. So I always look at it again within the 24 hours to make sure that I did not make a mistake. I've done it all. I have made spelling mistakes. I have booked the wrong gateways. I've done it all. So, it's just because you're new, it doesn't mean that you'll, if we've all done it, if you're experienced, if you're new, we've all made mistakes. It's just a matter of making sure that you try to avoid or try to minimize the mistakes as much as possible. And so this is working with air consolidators. I love Centrav because, number one, their service is really great. They are not open 24 hours, but they are open until, I believe, 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 or 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. And they're so wonderful to work with. They're very nice. Usually you can get them on the phone very quickly. And they're awesome to work with. They have a ton of webinars, and you will find that Centrav is one of the they're one of the more highly respected air consolidators. They've been around forever, and there's a reason why they are thought highly of by the travel agent community, because they're awesome. So this is Centrav. If you have any questions, contact your host agency, because I can probably bet you that they work with Centrav. A lot of the host agents, they all work with the air consolidators, because again, it is a great source of additional income, especially once you have mastered it. Have a wonderful evening.